quickly talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. I planned on talking about this Monday. Again, apologies for the audio difficulties, so I want to talk about it a little bit today. So the Las Vegas Raiders clinched a playoff berth after defeating the Los Angeles Chargers a couple days ago on Sunday, 35-32 in overtime. By the way, this was the sixth walk-off field goal for the Las Vegas Raiders this year, which, by the way, is the most since the NFL-AFL merger in 1970. So this is a team that has found ways to consistently be competitive. Be competitive. So that's not a fluke. That's not a fluke that they've won a bunch of these games, because when you have six walk-offs, that proves that you're in the thick of games week in and week out. That's first of all. But also this scenario was ridiculous because a tie sends both of those teams in, and a loss obviously disqualifies the team that loses. But this is why you love sports, is because of the unpredictability. The fact that you have to go out onto the field against all odds, despite what writers, what media critics and pundits say, despite what the stats would suggest, you have to go out and you have to execute and produce. That's it. And the Raiders have shown week in and week out that they can put all the garbage aside, all the trivial and extraneous things that could derail a team to the side and just focus on football, because this is one of the most unlikeliest and improbable teams and sports stories of all time. I truly believe that. I don't know if it's going to result and culminate in a Super Bowl. I really don't. But you think back to the John Gruden resignation and all the derogatory and racist and homophobic and misogynistic emails that were leaked. Then you had the Henry Ruggs fatal car accident, involuntary vehicular manslaughter. Then, unfortunately, Damon Arnett brandishing firearms, has the viral video go out that he's threatening to use the firearms. Then the poor rookie cornerback, Nate Hobbs, is arrested on a DUI arrest. All these things, and yet they're able to put it aside and they still go out and win. And how they've been able to just kind of navigate all of this turbulence and still reach the postseason is one of the best sports stories I think that we've seen this year. I truly think it's one of the best and one of the most incredible stories that we've seen this year. And despite all this crumble and destruction right on top of their locker room, they manage to poke some holes and able to climb their way out. And again, how they make the playoffs is unbeknownst to me. But I will say this, when you look at their personnel, we've been saying for the last several years, the Raiders have some really good personnel. They just would fall apart during the second half of the season. Well, that wasn't the case. They've won 4 straight games heading into this postseason. That was the difference between this year and last year. Last year, that team falls apart. This year, they stay compact, they stay intact, and they manage to punch their ticket. Josh Jacobs had his best game as an NFL running back right at the right time, 132 rushing yards. That's exactly what the doctor ordered. That's what they needed. His best performance as a Raider. Then, of course, you've got the playmakers coming up with clutch catches. Hunter Renfrow, 2 touchdowns. Darren Waller, Byron Edwards, Zay Jones. Those guys are confident and they're unafraid. And that trickles from top to bottom. You don't see any hesitancy. You don't see anyone phased out on the turf. They've got dogs on both sides. I've talked about that. Max Crosby is a dog defensively, an elite pass rusher, had 2 sacks against the Chargers. And then it shifts all on to Derek Carr and the leadership of Derek Carr. And I've talked about this before, how this guy just doesn't get enough credit for the leader that he is. Now, I've debated back and forth whether Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback. I'm not sure. I kind of have him at number 11 talent-wise, but from a maturity standpoint, he's flawless. He's exactly who you want up at the podium. He accepts blame upon losses and responsibility upon losses, and he praises his teammates upon wins. He knows exactly what to say. He's got the right temperament. He's got the right composure. And you look at his production, and he threw for the most passing yards of his career, over 4,800 passing yards, 68% completion percentage. It's the fourth straight year in which he's thrown for over 4,000 yards. So he's also been producing at a consistent rate, which is something that we just frankly don't see across most NFL quarterbacks. And everyone wants to kind of drag his name through the mud and criticize the guy for his inability to produce. But we forget that in 2016, he led the Raiders to a 12-4 overall record. I mean, he broke his leg, unfortunately, in the penultimate game in the regular season. So he missed the postseason for the Raiders. That was the last time they went. But he was playing like an MVP. He was an MVP candidate that season. And we just kind of shoved that underneath the rug. So, again, I think that when you look at this Raiders team and how they fare against the Bengals, the truth of the matter is when you look at personnel, is anyone really going to make the claim that the Raiders don't have better overall personnel than the Bengals? I think that they do. Now, the top tier talent on the Bengals, I think, is better than the top tier talent on the Raiders. That part is true. But as far as a complete roster, as far as a complete team, I think that the Raiders honestly have better personnel than the Bengals. And personally, I would love to see the Las Vegas. I have nothing against the Cincinnati Bengals. I love Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, that whole team. Zach Taylor was a former coordinator for the Rams. So I've got nothing against the Bengals, but the storyline of the Raiders this year is just something that you want to wrap your arms around. And that's a team that I want to root for, that I want to see continue to win, because they're on this Cinderella run, this magical merry-go-round, and I don't want to see it end. I would love to see if they can just emerge from the rough and still find a way to make some noise this postseason. That would be something special.